Coming off the previous training video on how to create a template, I want to introduce you to the macro button field, because when we created our template, well, we've got an invoice of who we want to send it to, but all we have is a to field. What are we supposed to put in the to field? Well, if you have new employees that will be typing information in the to field, maybe you need to spell it out for them. So the macro button field is basically a text field that you can put in there that tells them what to put into that field. So let's go ahead and click right here. Come up here, click on the Insert tab, go to the text group, and click on the quick parts. Go down to field. This should be familiar to you if you watched all my training videos, or more specifically, the video on fields. Click on it. And we're going to scroll down and find the M's for macro button. And then you can see up here the type of text you'd like to see. Please name. And then click Okie dokie. And there you go, in quotes, please enter the name. So when they come here and they click on it, it selects the entire macro button field. So when they start typing, it replaces that field with their text. So now they know what to put there. And so you can go ahead and insert as many fields as you want. Let me hit undo a couple of times so the field's back. And if you want to see the coding for the field, because maybe you made a mistake, like please enter name, where you just want to say name, right click on it and say you want to toggle. And you can see in quotes, you can get rid of whatever you'd like there. You can just say name. And then you can right click and say you want to toggle back. There you go. You can also use the Alt F9 keys to reveal, Alt F9 to hide. And of course you can right click on it and edit the field, bring it back up. Oi, name, and go ahead and click Okie dokie, and there you go. So then of course you go ahead and save this back to overwrite your template, as that would make sense. Every time you create a new template, whoever is creating a new invoice would see this in the template to say, okay, we got to have a name here. Oh, and then of course underneath that you could insert another field, macro button, and then that could be the street. Hit enter on the keyboard, and well, you could actually just copy and paste that down to the next one like this. Control C, and then hit enter, Control V. I know it says street, but you can of course right click on it to edit the field or toggle it, and then just replace street with city, state, and zippity-doo-dah. There you go. Cool. So let's go ahead and come up here, click on the Save As, change it from document. Now you better remember this because we covered it in the previous training video. What are we going to select? It's the word template.docx. Select it, takes us to the templates folder. Let's overwrite the original, My Spiffy Invoice, not the second one. That one was more of a hack job. Let's do My Spiffy Invoice, click Save. Okay, it's not going to overwrite it because the session still has issues with it, so we can go ahead and do what we did before. Instead of 2, this could now be 3, and click Save. And then we can go ahead and manage our templates by, well, right-clicking on the Start button, or just opening up any folder, like if I minimize this down to the taskbar. In fact, let me right-click and close out of number 3, and I open up any folder, like the Exercises folder, because over in the navigation pane we have our libraries, which reveals the Documents folder, double-click, or the Documents library, and it's in our Custom Office Templates, double-click, and there's all 3 of them. So if I want number 3 to be the only one, but I don't want it to be called number 3, I want it to be called the original, well, I can select the original and number 2 and hit the delete keys on the keyboard and get rid of them. Then right-click on number 3 to rename it. Or you can just go ahead and select it and hit the F2 key on the keyboard to open up in edit mode, and then go ahead and delete 3, hit enter, My Spiffy Invoice. So when I close out of here and I open up Word and I go backstage File to New, remember Personal is where it saves our templates, My Spiffy Invoice, click on it. Hey, oi, enter a name. Of course, it's me. And then when you're done typing in all the fields, go ahead and print it, or if you want to save it, because up here on the title bar, It's got a generic name, document 2. It's going to save it as a document, not overwrite the original template. So click Save, and we can, well, we don't want to do it to the templates folder unless you want to. I'll do it to the desktop and say, well, it's invoice to Kurt. And click Save, and there you go. Oh, well, I could update the street, city, state, and zip, but you get the idea. Just click and type. Mail merge is basically merging many things into one, thereby creating many of the one. And in this example, I've got one document, but I have a database that has many clients. So if I merge many of the clients into this one document, then it'll create many documents, one for each client. So all I have to do is create this letter once and then using the mail merge feature to then insert the fields that I have within my database, like their first name, last name, into this letter. I mean, if you're keeping track of your customers in a database, and I don't know what database you use, but don't you usually have a field for their first name and last name? That's all I'm doing here, inserting the first name and last name. So if their first name is Bob and their last name is Jones, I would type in the letter Dear, and then insert the field from the database for their first name that contains all their first names, and then their last name field, and then any other field that's pertinent to, well, in this case, the letter that I'm going to be sending off or printing for each client. Like if I have the number of orders they made, I could insert it after, like right here, purchasing. So thank you for purchasing 6 online video trainer training videos. You know, make it more personable. So like, ooh, he really knows about my orders here, or the number of training videos that I purchased. In any case, once you hit the mail merge button, then it pulls in from the first record, again, the fields for the first name and last name, and then the number of training videos. And then when it goes to the next record to pull it in, it duplicates this letter. So we have a separate letter for the second record, and then a separate letter for the third record, and so on until, well, if you have 1,000 clients, it'll have this letter duplicated 1,000 times, one for each client. So to get started, let's come up here and click on the Mailings tab, go to the Start Mail Merge group, and click on Start Mail Merge. Now we're doing letters here, but we'll cover the rest, like, you know, if you want to send this letter via email off to everybody within your database and they have email addresses, or you want to print envelopes for everybody, or labels, or do a directory, there you go. So you can go ahead and select letters, in which case when you do that, you'll be using all the commands or options up here on the ribbon, or if you want step-by-step instructions, which I recommend for those who are new to the mail merge, by using the mail merge wizard, it'll ask us a bunch of questions, and depending upon our answers, it'll go ahead and create the merge that hopefully we're looking for. So click on it, opens up the merge wizard over to the right, and the first thing it says is, what type of document are you working on? Well, it's the same 5 that you see when you clicked on the drop down here. So you can go ahead and select it, and you get a little bit more description about what you have selected down below. And you can see we're on step 1 of 6. So let's go ahead with letters selected, because that's what we're going to be doing right now. Let's go ahead and click Next, starting the document. So step 2, it says, do you want to use the current document? Well, yeah, that's the letter that I want to merge. But if not, you can start from a template. If you saved a template, you can go ahead and select that, then click on Select Template, go find your template. But it warns you that when you select the template, it'll overwrite what you have here. It'll delete it and replace it with that template. So that's fine. Let's click Cancel. I don't want to do that. You can also start from an existing document. If it's not a template, you can go ahead and click Open. Gives you the same warning. And so I don't want to overwrite this, but click Cancel. I want to use what I have here. And then click Next to select the recipients or the database, the people that I want to send this off to. Now when it comes to the database, you see up here you've got 3 options. You can use an existing list, and the ones that I recommend or that I'll be covering is like Microsoft Excel, Access, or Word. Those can all be used as databases. Also Outlook, which has a separate option for the Outlook program. That within Outlook is not just an email program, but it also stores information like for your contacts who you can send email to. Also has a calendar that you can schedule meetings and appointments, set tasks, assign tasks, well, a lot more. In any case, if you want to learn a lot more about Outlook, then you can watch my Outlook training videos, or you can go ahead and type in a new list. Now when you type in a new list, let's go ahead and select that. You come down here and click on Create, and well, there you go. You have so many fields here, you can click and drag and see all the fields that are available. And if you don't like any of those, or you want to add more fields, then you can click on Customize Columns, and there they are. And if you're like, you know what, I only want to keep track of their home phone, not their work phone, you can select it and delete it, but I'm not going to do that. And you can also add, click on Add. So if I want to keep track the number of orders made, or their total orders, click Okie dokie, and it's right there. And you can see that it goes title, first name, last name, title, first name, last name. So if you want that right after last name with it selected, you can move up, up, up. Okay, it's going to take a little while. There you go. Then click Okie dokie, and there you go, total orders. So for the title, if you want to add a title, Mr., and then I'll type in my first name, hit the tab key, type in my last name, hit the tab key, so I can advance from field to field without using the mouse. And the total orders, let's say I made 5. Now when I want to go ahead and create a new entry, I can just come down and click on New Entry. And this is Mrs. And we'll do one more. And if you want to get rid of an entry, well, go ahead and with it selected, just hit delete, and it's gone. And if you got a lot of entries and you want to find one, we'll go ahead and click on Find. And we want to type in who we want to find, like let's do Kurt. Do I want to search in all the fields for Kurt? Or how about just this field, the first name? Good. You can click on it, choose other fields, but first name works. Click Find Next, and it found me. Great. Click Cancel. And then when I'm done, go ahead and click Okie dokie. And it says, okay, you want to save this? We got to save it in a separate file. And what file is it going to save it as? What type? It's going to be a Microsoft Access database. The extension .mdb, that's Access. And if you want to learn more about extensions, you can watch my Windows training video on extensions. But in any case, let's give it a name. And we'll call it My New Spiffy Database. Now by default, it wants to save it in the My Data Sources folder, which is a subfolder to My Documents. Well, that's fine. I can also save it to the desktop and then click Save. And it opens up for additional options on my database. And we'll go over this in just a minute, but let me go ahead and click Okie dokie, and you can see the link is to My New Spiffy Database. And let me minimize that down to the taskbar because on my desktop it's right there. That's the logo for Microsoft Access, the key for the database, and so that's where it resides, and it pulls in. Let me click on the button to restore my letter into here. Now, if I don't want to use that, and I want to use another list, and I've got others, then I can come over here and say that I want to select a different list. When I select that, opens it up and says, what do you want? Let's go ahead and click the desktop. And it includes not only Microsoft Word, but also Excel and, of course, Access. Now, why Word? Oh, my goodness. Let's go ahead and click Cancel and minimize that down to the taskbar because I've got my two databases here. In Excel, that's the logo for Excel. Let me double click. There's my database. So I have my row header that has the headings for each column so you know what column you're looking at. This is for the first names, last name, address, and so on. And so when you create your database to be used as a mail merge in Word, you want to make sure that your first row has all your headings here so Word can easily identify the labels for the corresponding data down below. And if not, and your database isn't built correctly, well, the mail merge, you'll be lucky if it works. So you want to make sure you build it correctly here. And you can watch my Excel training videos on how to create the database correctly. And so you can see first name, last name, emails, phone. Let me go ahead and close out. So that's for Excel. How about Word? Let's go ahead and open up my database that I've saved in Word. Double click. And that's all it is. Just like Excel, right? You got a bunch of cells, except this is called a table. In Excel, it's called a spreadsheet. But they're all within cells. So in the first row, again, it's important that we have our header row or the headings for each column, the labels for the columns. Like this is for first name, that's for last, and so on. And so if you want to create your own database in Word, just make sure that all you have within it is the table and the first row has the labels for each column. Cool. Let's go ahead and close out of that. Go back down below to restore my letter. And let's go ahead and select a different list. Click on it. Opens up, desktop. And we can do it from Excel. There's the database. Double click. Now within Excel, I have a total of 3 worksheets. And where was my data? Well, it was on the first worksheet. And so we want to make sure you select that. If it's on another worksheet, select that. And then down below by default, the first row of data contains column headers. Remember the first row, I called it the header row. Well, make sure it contains the labels for the columns, or known as column headers. Then go ahead and click Okie dokie. And there you go. Hey, total of 3 from the database. We have Homer Simpson, Mr. Humphries, and Doug Heffernan. So it pulled that in. I can go ahead and click Okie dokie and say, nah, let's go ahead and select a different list. And then go out there on the desktop so you can see that, I can pull it in from Word, the table within Word. Double click, and there you go. It's pulling it in. Go ahead and click Okie dokie. And so it works for all of it. In any case, let me go back to my Excel because I like that. It's got more information in it. My Excel database. Double click. It's on sheet 1, OK, and there we go. There are many things you can do in this edit recipient list. For example, as it says up here, you can use the checkboxes to add or remove recipients from the merge. So if it brings over people you don't want to include, you don't have to go back and create a separate database to include just the ones that you want to include or delete the records. Just bring them over and go ahead and uncheck them, and they won't be included in the final merge. And if you need a little help finding them, you get some options here. Each one of these column headers has a drop-down arrow that you can click on to do sorting, like if you want to sort descending A to Z or descending Z to A. There's ascending H's down to the S's. You can do the sorts of sort, and you can click on the drop-down arrow. And below that, you got some filtering options. So if you want to focus on one person for a little bit and not see a bunch of others, then go ahead and select like Heffernan, and it just filters out everybody else except for him. And if you're like, oh, where did all the records go? Well, one indication is that when you look up here and you see, looks like a light blue triangle as opposed to black, it means that it's filtering by that field. And so you can scroll all the way over to make sure there are no other fields being filtered. And if it's just that one, then you can go ahead and click on the drop-down arrow and say that you want to see all. You can do advanced sort and filters. You can click on the drop-down arrow and go down to advanced, and it brings up the advanced filter and sort window. So it has a tab for filtering records, an advanced tab, and one for sorting. So if you go to the sort, it remembers our last sort. We did it by last name. So if you want to continue and do after you sort it by last name, then sort it by their first name. So for example, if I sort everybody and I have a bunch of people with the last name of Smith, after it sorts it and groups all the Smiths together because they have the same last name, then I can go ahead and sort it by their first name. So within all the Smiths, it would then be sorted by their first name if I went ahead and select first name, and we can do descending. So that way, Zoe Smith would be at the top within the Smiths group, all the way down to Avery Smith at the very bottom, or ascending Avery to Zoe. And if I want to be done with this, you can go ahead and click Clear All and click Okie dokie, and it goes back to the original sort. And then, of course, you have the advanced filter, which, you can click on the drop-down arrow and click on advanced, or you can come down here and click on sort or filter. It brings up the same window, sort, same window. Well, it puts you on the sort records tab, cancel, and then the filter puts you on the filter records tab. So you can click on the drop down arrow and say that you're looking for a first name that's equal to, or other options, not equal to, or less than, or greater than if you're working with numbers, or it contains something. So if it equals, and we'll say Doug, let's go ahead and click Okie dokie. And before I do that, you can do additional ones like and or. And I go over these functions, as it were, in Excel. And means that it has to meet both conditions, this one and that one. Or means it could be this one or that one. Either or, just has to meet one of them. But we'll keep it simple. We'll just leave this alone and not do an additional one. So click Okie dokie, and it found Dougie. And you can see it's filtered by the first name because of that light blue shade triangle. So when you find the people you're looking for, you're sorting, you're filtering, you're removing check marks from those that you don't want to include, and you want to clear it all. Well, let's go back to filter and say clear all for the filter. Go to the sort records. If you have any sorts, clear all for that. Click Okie dokie. And we're back to where we started. I want to include Dougie though. And then another option you get is you can select the database that's being pulled in here. And you can go ahead and click on refresh. That way if somebody's editing this, if it allows you to at the same time, then you can go ahead and pull in more information. You can also edit the database. And when it comes to editing, you cannot delete an entry. Well, it won't let me for my database, but I can add a new one. click on New Entry, and we'll do Billy Bob, and click Okie dokie. Now when I click OK, of course it'll be here in the Edit Recipients window behind here, but also it'll update the Excel workbook that has all the other three right there. So let's click Okie dokie. Do you want to update the recipient list? Again, my database, the Excel workbook, and save these changes to it? Yes. And so there's Billy Bob. Let's go ahead and take a gander. Click Okie dokie, minimize this down to the taskbar. There's the database. Double click to open it up. Okay, well, it says it's in current use, and so we won't be able to make any changes to it. That's okay. I just wanted to take a look to make sure Billy Bob was added. We'll do read only. There he is. Sweet. Of course, he needs more information, but we're good. Close out. We can exclude him later on. Let me go down here and restore this by clicking on the button. Which brings up a good point. If you want to go back to edit the recipients, you can do it one of a couple of ways. If you're using the step-by-step mail merge, everything you see here is up here on the ribbon. So you can click on Edit Recipient List, brings up the window, close out, or you can come up here on the Mailings tab, and there it is, Edit Recipients List. Brings up the same window. We could leave Billy Bob there for the moment, and I'll show you later on how we can excuse him from our mail merge. Let's click Okie dokie and continue. To next, write the letter, and you can do it one of a couple of ways. Well, first off, I want a deer, so I'll type in just a little bit more, hit the space bar, and you can add one of these pre-formatted fields, block of fields, that's going to pull information from your database. If you have a first name, last name, street address, and so on. So you click on the address block, and you can select a type of format, and then over here it reveals it or gives you a preview of it. And if you're like, wait a second, it's not pulling in the first name or it's not pulling in the last name, then what you want to do is you want to come down here if you got problems and click on Match Fields, because what Word is trying to do is it's trying to take the fields that it sees as first name to find a match in your database for first name. And if it's not spelled exactly as first name or you got something else and it doesn't recognize it, well then click on the drop down arrow and find your first name. Like if it was two letters, FN, for first name, it probably won't find it. Go ahead and select FN to match it to the first name field in the address block here. And so you're just looking for matches. If they're not matched, then go ahead and find the way that you named it within your database to what they're looking for over here and how Word sees it. Address 1, address 2. These aren't matched because, well, I don't have it in my database. And if I did, it probably didn't have the same name, so I have to click on it and choose the way I named it to the way Word's going to see it. Okie dokie. Let's go ahead and click cancel. So you can go ahead and toggle through to make sure all these records are, well, okay, Billy Bob, that's all right. You can go ahead and select other different formats like Josh, just first name. So if I go back this way, it just has Doug, doesn't have his last name. So that's what you're looking at is the format. To include their last name, plus if they have any juniors or seniors. And in any case, find one that works best for you. And if that looks good, you can go ahead and click Okie dokie, and it adds the address block right there. So how's it going to look? Because I like to see how it looks before I actually do the merge. But I put it after deer, so I probably don't need the deer. In any case, if you want to preview it before you actually do the merge, you could come up here on the Mailings tab and go to the Preview Results group and click on Preview. Okay, that doesn't work, although that's very sweet. Dear Doug Heffernan at 97 Hamville Circle. So I could delete the deer, but I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to show you that you can go ahead and use the address block or even a greeting line. Oh, that's fun. And let's go ahead and come up here and toggle through. There's Mr. Billy Bob. In any case, you can toggle through all that or deselect it to not preview it so you can just see the codes. And you can actually come up here and highlight those fields in case if you're like, okay, quickly, I want to see what merge fields are within my document here. So let's go ahead and delete this. Hit the backspace arrow once, twice it's gone. And you've got a greeting line. So it'll actually put the deer in for you. Oh, I just wasted some work there, didn't I? Busting my hump putting in deer. In any case, you can see down below in the preview, deer Wilberforce Humphreys. And it even adds a comma. Oh, that's great. But while you can do that, let me go ahead and click cancel. You can come up here and do it step by step, like insert the merge field, first name, then hit the space bar because we need a space in between first name and last name, then hit comma, and then you can come up here and click on preview, Wilberforce Humphreys, then toggle to the next one, Doug Heffernan. Cool. Let's go ahead and deselect that. And let's go to next, preview your letters. And it automatically puts us in the preview view of the results. So you can see it here, and then you can go ahead and toggle back and forth. But we already covered that. And you can also do it within the task pane here. Go to recipient 2. I want to go to Billy Bob because I don't want him to be included. So we can go ahead and exclude him here. Once I do that, now I just have 1, 2, 3, and no 4. But if I click on Edit Recipient List, either here or up here, same thing. There's Mr. Billy Bob. If I want to include him, well, go ahead and check it, because when I clicked on Exclude, it removed the checkbox. That's all it did. Click Okie dokie, and now we're back to 4. Oh, and at any point, if you want to add additional fields, you can do so. It's not structured within the step-by-step. It just means, look, this is the sequence that you want to take when it comes to working with the wizard here. So if I forgot a field like, thank you for purchasing, let me put a field here. Come up, click on Insert Merge Field. Videos, well, let me turn off the preview results. There you go. Now you can see videos, because when it was on, Billy Bob, we just had his name. He hasn't purchased anything from us. Oh, that dirty guy. Let's go ahead and click back so we can see somebody who did like Doug. Hey, he purchased 5. That's fabulous. And if you don't want to see the highlights, we can go ahead and deselect it. And I'll go a little bit slower, or pick it up so you can watch the video again. In any case, let's go ahead and go to the next step, complete the merge. And it says you can just go right to print, or you can edit the letters individually. So what will happen is, well, we just have one page here, one letter. But when we click on Edit individually, it'll take all the records. We have a total of 4, bring them over to this one letter, and duplicate 1 for each record. And so we can go from one page to the next and edit them individually, so we can make it more personable. Like, down here for Doug, P.S. Hey, we had a great donut party last week. That was fabulous, babes. In any case, let's go ahead and click on Edit Individual Letters. And you can be selective, like, no, not all of them, just the current record, or from records 2 to 4. Let's do all. Click Okie dokie. Opens up a new window. So we got our original template that's still there. And there you go. Homer Simpson. There's page 1. And you can see down below in the status bar, we have a total of 4. So there's page 1, 2, for Mr. Humphreys, that is. And 3 and 4, Billy Bob. And thank you for purchasing online video trainer training videos. Well, we didn't have him as purchasing any, but in any case, you get the idea. And then when you're done, you can go ahead and save this. So later on, you can go ahead and send it off again, or close out and say you don't want to save it. So we're back to our mail merge template, and you can save that. So later on, if you want to do this again, you can just do some tweaks here if you're going to be using the same thank you letter. So in any case, we can go back to previous steps, make some more changes, close out of here, and use what's up on the ribbon, because everything you saw in the step-by-step wizard is up here on the ribbon. But you may feel more comfortable by clicking on the start and doing step-by-step. And it, well, takes me back to where I last left here, step 5 of 6, and go previous, go next, and, clean it up, make your changes, and call it a day. Now, what about the other mail merge options? Like, when you come up here, click on Start Mail Merge. We did letters. How about email messages, envelopes? Well, let's do email messages. So if I go back to the beginning, because I've got the wizard open, previous, 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 and I want to do email messages, so it takes what I have here, and it will send it to everybody I have in my database who has an email address. Sound good? Okay. Let's go ahead and email it now, and say next. And it switches from the print layout view to the web layout, as you can see down below on the status bar. That's the one that's highlighted, web layout, and that's okay. And we already have our merge fields, and of course you can go ahead and let's give it a space between that merge field and the next word. And so we'll be using the current document. Again, we can start from a template or start from an existing document. We already covered that, so let's go to the next step. Let's see, use an existing list. My database did have emails in it for everybody there, except for Billy Bob, so I'll exclude him, in which case I can say edit the recipients list and just uncheck him. Or later on, let me click Okie dokie. When I click next and I go to, well, we already have our message written, the fields, instead of adding one of the merge blocks, so we can click next. And here, I could exclude him here if I didn't want to add Billy Bob. In any case, we cover this, so really pretty much the same thing except when we get to step 6. Let's go ahead and do the electronic to email merge. Click on it. Oh my goodness. Well, who do we want to send it to? Click on the drop down arrow, and my database should have a field called emails, and it does. It's that field or that header for the column that contains all the emails. Okay, let's go ahead and click cancel in case if you forgot. Let's minimize this down to the taskbar and open up my database. Double click. Okay, read only, right? Because we're working on it through Word, that is. And there's the emails. So we've got emails. Great. Let's go ahead and close out and restore. And then click on electronic email. So we have to match the fields. 2 is going to be their email addresses, and the subject line is thank you. And then the mail format, you could do HTML, plain text, or do it as an attachment. Let's do HTML. That's hypertext markup language. So if you got a bunch of fancy images and formatted text, it'll go with it, as opposed to plain text, which is plain, no formatting, no fancy images. So do you want to send all the records, just the current one, or from record number 2 to record number 3? In any case, let's do all. Click okie dokie. And you see down below, another program is using Outlook. In any case, it's going to send it through Microsoft's Outlook. That's where the connection is. So let me go ahead and open up Outlook. Click on the Start button, go to Outlook 2016. And let's go to the Outbox, and there's all 3. There's the reminders, pumpkin carving. Oh, that's fun. And I'll talk about that in just a minute, because if you're not familiar with Microsoft Outlook, it's more than an email program. But when it comes to sending emails, if you have Outlook installed with the rest of the Office suite, like Word, then it'll put it all in the Outbox. Thank you. For you just to come in here and click on Send and Receive, and it's sending them off, and there they go. And I better hurry and close out because they're going to come back in my inbox here because they're junk emails. They're not really somebody I'm sending it to. In any case, if you want to learn more about Outlook, where it's more than just an email program, but as you saw in the pop-up, you can have task reminders, things that you need to do, assign tasks to other people. Well, there's a reason why you want to go ahead and watch my training video on Outlook. So you can assign tasks to other people via email. You can also schedule meetings and appointments. It's really quite a cool program. In any case, I digress. Let's get back to Word. And so there we go, our electronic emails. What's the next one? Start mail merge, envelopes. Ah, there's a good one. We can either click it here and not go through the step-by-step if you feel comfortable. Otherwise, just what we did with the letters is we went back, and then we chose electronic email, then we went forward. I mean, you can do it that way, or let's just jump right to it. Envelopes. Envelopes has nothing to do with the letter, right? We're going to be getting out of that. And so it brings up the option for envelopes. What envelopes do you want to print or merge everybody over from your database into? I mean, is it a simple, size 10 envelope where it's 4 1/8 by 9.5 inches, or is there something else? You doing something bigger than that? I'll keep it simple. And for the delivery address and the return address, you can have it, well, the auto is the default placement right here. But for the delivery address, if I want to go, well, from the left 1.4 inches as opposed to auto, I mean, that's really tight to the left-hand margin, isn't it? In any case, your flavor, you can do what you want. Let me go back down to auto, leave it as is. And then you want to click on the printing options because this is how you're going to feed your envelopes into your printer. That is, if your printer accepts envelopes. In any case, do you want to have the envelopes faced up in the center or to the right? I mean, is that how you feed it? You'll probably have to do a test run before you start printing all of them off. And do you want it face up or do you put them face down? So the return address, delivery address is now flipped over and we're on the other side, but it's face up. And you got the clockwise rotation. Well, let's just go ahead and go with what we got here and click okie dokie. And it says in order to apply the selected envelope options, we're going to destroy everything you have here and overwrite it. It's going to be lost. Are you okay with that? Well, all right. And there we go. So now we have our standard 10 envelope, the return address, and then the delivery address is down here. So for the return address, let's go ahead and type it in, our company address. Voila. And now let's see the delivery address. Well, where in the heck is that? Is it here? 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 There we go. An easy way to identify where that box is at, the text box that we can insert our merge fields into for the delivery address, is to come up here and click on the Home tab, go to the paragraph group, and yes, turn on your codes. And so when I click out, well, you can see a code right there. Go ahead and click there, and there's the text box, which, by the way, as you've watched in the text box training video, you can hover over the border of it until you get a 4-way arrow, and you can click and drag and, put it like wherever. So let's go ahead and hit undo and leave it as is. So with the cursor flashing there, let's go back to our mailings tab. Or, you can come over here into the mail merge group and add an address block here, which is a lot easier. Or if you didn't have it, that's okay because it's up here on the ribbon. Same thing, just not step by step. So address block, and well, there's the preview for this. Is that okie dokie with you? Yeah, I think so. Let's click okie dokie and address block. Let's go ahead and click a preview and let's toggle through. Let's go back. Oh, and let's turn off the codes. Deselect and then go back to the mailings tab and then go forward. Oh, it looks great. And then when you're ready, well, you don't have to have the step-by-step wizard to get to the end to do the finish and merge, because guess what? It's also up here in the finish group. You can also merge to Acrobat PDF, but let's just do this. Click on it and say, well, do you want to print them or do you want to edit individual documents? Well, let's go ahead and do edit individuals. Click on that. Let's do all. Click okie dokie. And there we go. There's first letter, second letter, third. Cool. Go ahead and hit print, but make sure you got your envelopes ready to go and not start printing off this on a bunch of blank sheets of paper. And then you can go ahead and save this as your envelopes. Come up here, click save. Well, if you want to save it, I'll click cancel when I close out, and don't save it. We're back to our merge document. And so what's next after this? Let's click on Start Mail Merge. Ooh, labels. That ought to be fun. Okay, let's do it. Click on it. And first off, it wants to know the printer information, like the tray. You can do the default tray or select other options. Then the label information, the vendor. Is it Avery US Letter or is it some other vendor like Ace Label? Then once you select the vendor, go ahead and look on the box. That contains your labels, so you can find the product number. And then we can go ahead, let me scroll down here, see if I can find it really fast. There we go, 5160. Let's select that. You can see the height is 1 inch and the width is 2.63 inches on a page size of 8.5 by 11. Now, if you don't find your label in here, you can go ahead and click on New and do a Frankenstein, create your own. So give your label a name that you can easily identify, and then set your margins away from the edge of the page, your top and side margins, vertical pitch, horizontal pitch, and then your label. The height is 1 inch, label width, and that can be up to about 3 across and 10 down, so a total of 30 on a page. And then you can choose the letter size, which will either give you more or less. In any case, let me click cancel. So once we've got what we want here, let's go ahead and click okie dokie. And it says everything you have here will be lost to make way for our labels. Okay, bye-bye. And if you're wondering where the labels are at, well, up here on the horizontal ruler, you can see from the left indent to the right, or the grid there to the next grid. And that's the first column, the second column, the third column, and then you've got the first row, second row, third row, and so on. Or if it helps, come up here on the Home tab, go to the paragraph group and turn on the Show Code. So, better. So we can see where we can type in our text, and then of course the code that represents the cell within the table. So there's cell 1, cell 2, cell 3, and then the next cell. So let's come back up here, click on the Mailings tab, and we have our recipients, don't we? Well, we've got the Edit Recipient List, so it's still tied to this document. If not, you'd click on Select Recipients, and, well, you can use Outlook or use an existing list, in which case it'll open up and it says, Find Me, select it, and then it'll pull it in for you to edit, just what we did with the letters. So we can go ahead and choose who we want to include or who not to include. We'll include Billy Bob or Bob Billy and click okie dokie. And then what we need to do in the first cell here is to insert the merge fields. And you can do it one of a couple of ways. You can either come up here and do step-by-step, first name. Okay, the preview's on, which is fine. Let's go ahead and turn that off so we can see the first name. And what's interesting is that we've got the first name, but in the next label it says next record. Now, why is it doing that? The reason why is because when it pulls in the first record and we update it and it wants to pull in the next record, well, the next label is going to be the next record, because without that code, it won't pull in any additional records but just the first record, which is very annoying because we want all the records. So you can do first name, last name, well, hit the space bar and then insert the merge field, last name, then hit enter, then go ahead and insert address. Well, you get the idea. Let me go ahead and hit undo a couple of times because the address block, let me go ahead and redo that. Hit the backspace key a couple of times. Seems a lot easier, address block. As you can see here, you see how you do one, like the letters, then everything else is pretty much along the same lines, just a few differences here and there as far as working with the mail merge. So we'll go with this option here and click Okie dokie. There's the address block. Now I need to take that address block and add it to all the other labels. You could go ahead and select it, copy, and come over here and paste it. Ugh, that's going to take forever. Let's go ahead and hit undo. Instead, come back over here and say that you want to come up on the Mailings tab to the right and insert Fields group and update the labels. And it says in the pop-up, if you're creating labels, update all labels in the document to use the information from the recipient list. Yes. And it automatically adds the address block to all the others. So the first address block pulls in the first record within the database. Then when it comes over here, it says next. So it goes to the next record within the database, next record, and so on. Are you following where I'm drifting? Well, let's go ahead and click on Preview Results, and if you can't see everybody, that's okay. The merge, well, let's go ahead and go down this way. So we just see number 4 of a total of 4. It's Billy Bob, but if I go back the other way, they start scrolling through, right? There we go. Homer, Mr. Humphreys, Doug Heffernan, Billy Bob. Cool. So you don't want to freak out if you can't see everybody because, well, you got to toggle through to be able to see everybody when you're doing preview results. And then if you have more than a total of 30 in this example, because we got a total of 30 here, it will leave it as is. And when you do the finish merge, it knows that there's more than 30, so it'll go ahead and it'll print off the second page, third page, as many pages as it needs to be able to pull in everybody's address from your database. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's do finish merge, and we can edit individual documents again. So if you want to do it that way, that's fine. But before I do that, you may want to do a test print, because I don't know about you, when it comes to my printer, when I first started this and I hit the print button, it wouldn't print exactly aligned on the labels. So I'd print it on a sheet of paper, and then I'd take that sheet and I'd put it in front or behind a sheet of labels and hold it up to the light. That way I can see through it and go, okay, you know what? This guy right here, let me click and drag. You see how it bumps all the columns over just a little bit? So I can get it more lined up with the labels if I need to. Undo. Or if Homer Simpson is printing on the border of the label, doesn't look good, then we can hover over the top margin and push everybody down. So you may need to do some tweakage. In any case, if everything's good, then go ahead and finish your merge. You can go right to print or just edit individual documents. We can do it for all. Click Okie dokie. Opens up a new window, which is the same as what we came from because, well, we only have a total of 4. Doesn't look good unless I turn off the codes here. That looks better. And if you're like, oh, that's not printing right, well, then you can close out of here and go back to the original so you can make adjustments. Maybe this column needs to come over a bit more. Maybe this one needs to go out more. You see how you can go ahead and tweak with the table column here. In any case. Okay, next let's go ahead and do a directory. And to do that, gosh, I don't want to use this here, so we can just start from scratch. We can go ahead and close out of here. Besides, it'll be a great review. And let's just open up a blank document. Double click. A directory is just like it sounds, like a phone directory. If you want to have everybody's last name and then their phone number or extension, you want to go ahead and create one of those. Well, come up here, click on the Mailings tab. I'm starting from scratch, a new blank document. So we can click on Start Mail Merge. We'll do Directory. We need to select our database. Click on Select Recipients. Use an existing database, which is on the desktop. It's in my workbook, double click. It's on sheet 1 within the workbook, say okie dokie. And then let's go ahead and insert our merge fields like last name, space, then insert the phone number field, and then just hit enter once. So that way, let's click on the home tab and turn on the codes, that when it's done with the first record, it will go to the next record and the next one and not have them one record right after another. So Simpson, their phone number, and then if I didn't have that extra paragraph, it would put right after the phone number the last name of the next person and so on, which is very annoying and not organized. So let's go ahead and click on the Mailings tab. We can do a preview and we can toggle through it. Looks good. Let's go ahead and do Finish and Merge. Let's edit the individual documents. Click on that. Let's do it for all. Okie dokie. Hey, well, let's turn off the codes. Doesn't that look good? Well, except for Bob. He doesn't have a phone number. I should have excluded him. Well, that's okay. Just go ahead and close out of here, not save it. Come back, edit recipient list, get rid of Mr. Bob there, and say okie dokie, and then finish and merge to edit individual documents. Okay. That's nice. Oh, and if you'd like, I have an ADD moment. We can go ahead and close out of here and not save it. Come back and let's turn off the preview results. And in fact, how about if we add, hit the backspace, a tab stop right at the, well, we can pull it not so far away right here. Hit the tab key once, so we got some space. But how about if we add a leader to that? So it leads our eye from the last name to the phone number. Sound cool? All right. Come up here, double click on the left tab stop, and select that stop, and say you want to set it for this leader right here, ... Say set. Click okie dokie. There you go. You can go ahead and preview it. Well, let's turn off the codes because, yeah, there we go. And then let's go back to the mailings. Looks good. Click on Finish and Merge to edit individual documents. All okay. Isn't it cool how it comes together? Hey, if you don't know what I'm doing, you got to watch my tab stop training video so you can combine it with your mail merge for the directory and get something just beautiful. A macro is basically a bunch of recorded steps that you can instantly execute those steps over and over again in a single click. So for example, let's say in a bunch of my documents I want to type in my company's name and apply some formatting to that name. Instead of repeating the same steps over and over again in each document, all I have to do is go through the steps once, but while I'm doing it, record those steps, and then save it as a macro. And later on in those other documents, I can just come up here and click on the macro button that I'll show you how to add to the quick access toolbar, or I can use a combination of available shortcut keys to execute those steps. Now there are 3 ways you can record a macro. One way is to come down below on the status bar and click on that guy right there. You can see when I hover over him, it says in the pop-up that no macros are currently recording. Click to begin recording a new macro. If you don't see that button there, then go ahead and right-click anywhere on the status bar and select macro recording. Let me click off. Now you can do it that way, or you can come up here and click on the View tab, go to the Macros group, and click on the drop-down arrow and record there, or you can bring up the Developer tab on the ribbon, which is hidden by default, by right-clicking anywhere on the ribbon to customize the ribbon, and then go down and check Developer, okie dokie, and there it is. Click on the Developer tab, Code Group, right there, Record Macro. Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm on the Home tab, I'm not going to bust a few calories to come over here and click on one of those 2 tabs. If I can just come down below and click right on that button to begin recording a macro. So go ahead and click on it. And first of all, it wants to know the name of the macro, which can help with organizational purposes as well. So if I'm just going to put in my company's name, Dreamforce, how about if I just name the macro after my company, Dreamforce? And the macro name doesn't like certain characters, the least of which is the space. So if you click okie dokie and you do something invalid, then click OK and start over again. Click on record, and then you can either go ahead and slam it all together so there's no spacing, but if you got to have a space, then you can go ahead and click in between the 2 and do the shift underscore So it appears like there's a space without actually adding a space. And the macro name is okay with the underscore. And then down below that, you can assign the macro to a button. And we won't do it right here, but you can actually do it later on if you'd like. So we'll skip that here. You can assign it shortcut keys, which if you do, and you go right to it, you're not able to come back in here and choose these other options. So stay in the window here before you go to assigning it a shortcut key or keys. So first off, where do you want to store the macro in? Do you want it in all documents, or do you want to go ahead and just store it in this one? So if I select that, the name of the document, Automate Using Macros, is this one right up here on the title bar, Automate Using Macros. Now let's just go ahead and do it for all documents. And then down below you can type in a description if you'd like. And we'll add the website below our company name in this macro. So if you're good to go, don't click OK if you want to assign it a shortcut key or keys to it. So go ahead and click on Keyboard. And there you go. Press New Shortcut Key. All right, how about delete? It says down below it's assigned to Edit Clear. Okay. Back up here, hit the backspace key, and let's do something else. How about a combination like Alt Q? Alt plus Q is not assigned. Alrighty. Let's come down here and click Assign. It assigns it over here to the current keys. You can select it and remove it, but I'm not going to do that. We'll keep it assigned and click Close. And you see how it didn't go back to that window? So once you assign it a shortcut key, it starts recording. So we got to hurry because it's recording time. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't record time. It only records steps. And so take as much time as you want. And how do we know it's recording? Well, one of a couple of ways. You can see when I move my mouse, I've got the pointer, and below that, that's right, we've got an old, very old icon. It's the cassette tape. Well, back when we rode around on dinosaurs, when we wanted to save our computer programs, we recorded it to tape. In any case, that's one way. Down below on the status bar, it changed the icon to a square that when you hover over it, it says a macro is currently recording. Click to stop the recording, or you can come up here, click on the View tab, and then click on the drop-down arrow to stop. You can also pause, but I've never had much success with that, so I don't recommend it. And we'll go over that a little bit more later when it comes to, well, making a mistake during the recording and how to go ahead and edit that, or if you should edit your recording at all. In any case, you can stop it there, or click on the Developer tab and go to the Code group and stop it there. Now, keep in mind it's recording steps, and so when you make a mistake, that's okay as long as you can fix it. If you can't fix it, then it's best to stop the recording and start over. Because if you can fix it during the recording, when you run the macro, it goes so fast through all the steps, even your mistakes, that you don't see it. You just see the end result. So don't sweat it if you make a mistake as long as you can fix it during the recording. So let's come up here, click on the Home tab because that's where I want to start. And let's type in the name of my company. And then if I want to apply some formatting to it, there's a couple rules when it comes to recording a macro that basically don't ever use the mouse to move around within the document or to select your text. And when you want to apply formatting, don't bring up the mini formatting toolbar, although I don't think you can bring it up anyways, and don't apply the formatting directly from the ribbon. It's got to be from its dialog box button. And I'll go over that in just a minute. So how do I format this without using the mouse? As you recall, in an earlier training video, to get from the end of a line to the beginning, you can hit the Home key, but to select everything from the end to the beginning, hold down the Shift key and then hit the Home key. So Shift Home, it selects it, and then we can come up here. We're not going to apply formatting in front here, but going through the dialog box button, you can also use the shortcut keys to bring it up and apply the formatting here. Because if you do it up here in front where everybody can see, well, the macro gets embarrassed and it really doesn't work. But behind the scenes here in the window, you can go ahead and dress it up however you'd like and apply as much formatting as you like within this window, and it will remember all the formats that you apply to it. And you can see down below the preview of it when you're done recording the macro. So let's go ahead and click Okie dokie. And you can test it. You can try me out. You can go ahead and apply formatting up here from the ribbon and not from the dialog box, and it won't work. In any case, I'm trying to save you the headache of having to learn that yourself, but hey, whatever works best for you when it comes to learning here. Now to go ahead and type in the website below my company name, instead of clicking off over to the right because I don't want to use the mouse, everything I do within the document, I want to use the keyboard. So hit the End key to get to the end of it, then hit the Enter key, and then we can go ahead and type in our website address. and I don't want it to be the same color, the same size. So again, hold down the Shift key, hit Home, and then come back up here and expand it, or Control D opens it up, of course. And we'll do regular, and we'll do size. Let's do 10 and not red, black. That's pretty good. Click Okie dokie, and all right. Hit the End key on the keyboard, hit Enter. That's great. Let's go ahead and call it a day and stop it. So click on the Stop button, and we're done. And you can see it now turns into an I-beam. I don't get the pointer with the cassette tape below my I-beam. So let's go ahead and take it for a test drive. And you can do it one of a couple of ways. You can come up here, click on the View tab, go to the Macros group, and click on the Macro button here. And it opens up the Macros window. Close out, you can click on the drop-down arrow and say View Macros, opens up the same window. Or close out, click on the Developer tab, and go to the Code group, and click on Macros. It opens up the same window. So with it selected, go ahead and click Run. Oh, that's fun. Let's do it again, but this time let's use a shortcut key. What was that? Alt-Q? Oh, that's beautiful. Now what about a quick click button, a macro button? Well, we can add that up here on the Quick Access toolbar by right-clicking anywhere on it, to customizing it. Click on Customize Quick Access, and then change it from Popular Commands to Macros. And there it is right there. It's got this icon that represents your macro, which is just horrifying to look at. And then you got this long name, normal.new macros. Well, there's the name of my macro, the end of it. So with it selected, let's add it over to the Quick Access toolbar. And once we add it there, we can come down and modify it. Because, hey, we can give it a happy face instead of that generic funny looking thing right there for the macros. And then down below for the display name, normal.new macros. Well, okay, let's not do that. Let's select it and delete it and say it's our company name, DF and website. Click OK. Click OK. And there he is. He's so happy. And you can see when I hover over it, there's the display name, company name, DF and website. Click on it to execute. Oh, look at that. It did it again. At this point, after you've run your macros and you like it and you want to save your workbook, well, when it comes to working with macros, Word wants you to save it not as a regular Word document, with the extension up here on the title bar, .docx, but as a macro-enabled document. Well, let me show you. Come over here, let's click on the Save As, and there's the regular document here, the template. Click on it, and go from a docx to a macro-enabled document, .docm. M is for macro. And so if you want to keep your macros, and Word says, if you want to keep it, you got to save it as a macro-enabled document, then go ahead and select that and save it. And you'll be able to continue working with your macros and running them within that document. Let's go ahead and click Cancel. But for right now, when I click Save, not a problem. And so if that does come up, well, there you go. In any case, when you run your macro, if you're looking at it going, you know what, I really don't want my company name to be in red. I'd like it to be in blue and maybe a larger size. Well, you can re-record the macro, or you can try your hand at Visual Basic Application Programming, because that's what the macro is based upon, the VBA code. And you can do that by coming up here either on the Developer tab, going to the Code group and clicking on Macros. And it brings up this window, as well as on the View tab to the Macro group and clicking on the same button, just different tab, and it's got the same window. Select your macro and click on Edit. Whee-wee, there you go. There's a bunch of code for you. Well, I'll keep it simple. Some of the coding for me makes sense, like, okay, the text Dreamforce LLC. What if I don't want the LLC? Well, I'll go ahead and delete that. That's pretty simplistic, right? And then what about the size? It equals 18. Well, how about if I want to make it bigger, like size 30? And then see if there's anything else that can make sense, small caps false. If you want it different, then mark it as true. And how about the color? Instead of red, we do bleu. In any case, I'm keeping it simple. If there's things I don't understand, or you don't, then don't mess with it, because if you place an extra dot somewhere, you mess up the code, you could run into issues. And speaking of which, there are people who like to mess up your code or send you documents that have harmful macros and VBA code that when you open it up and run it, it'll destroy your computer. And there's kind of a fix for that, or actually a way to make sure that that doesn't happen to you. The least of which is to abstain. Don't open up a document that has macros in it that's from somebody you don't trust, or that, well, maybe you do, but they don't know about coding and they went in there and messed it all up. In any case, you want to be safe, but this is pretty simplistic, so let's go ahead and try it. Go ahead and click Save, File, to close and return to Microsoft Word, and let's run it. We can come up here and click on my happy dude, and oh, did you see that? Ooh, that was fancy. Yes, it works. So keep it simple and you'll be able to make some changes. Otherwise, I recommend, if you don't know anything about VBA code, re-record it. And speaking of protection, when it comes to opening up that contains macros in it, well, let's come up here, click on the File tab, go backstage down to Options, select the Trust Center, and come over here and click on Trust Center Settings. And there we go, Macro Settings. Going from top to bottom, you can disable all macros without notification. And what that means is that when you open up a workbook that has macros, it just disables them. You can't run them. And in turn, they can't be ran. They won't destroy your computer if the macros are harmful. And then you get the option to disable all with notification, so it can let you know that, hey, there are macros in here which may be helpful. Maybe it's from a friend who's trying to help you out. And you can go, oh, and notice that and go ahead and close out of the notification. Which, by the way, you won't get the notification even though you have this selected to have notification if the message bar here selected is set to never show information about blocked content, like, blocked macros. So make sure you have it up here that says show, and let's go back to the macros. So it'll actually show the message bar just right below the ribbon if there's something that is blocked that you want to be notified about. And you can also say disable all macros except digitally signed, which is, well, digitally signed from trusted sources, or enable all macros. Of course, Microsoft doesn't recommend this because, hey, there may be somebody that you don't know about that has something harmful in there that sent it to you. So in any case, for me, if I can't trust me, who can I trust? How about enable all? Click okie dokie, click okie dokie. There we go. And then finally, if you want to be able to delete your macros, well, you can come up here on the View tab, go to the Macros group, click on the Macros button, select it, and click on Delete. Or another option is the Organizer. You can click on that and open it up, and, well, the macros that we recorded has been saved over into the global template, so any document and every document will have all those macros. And even though I gave the macro, Dreamforce, it's called new macros, it's all lumped together into the global template, the normal template. And you can see over here, this is my document, Automate Using Macros. So up there you can see the title bar, Automate Using Macros. So if you have a macro that you want to delete, either from the global template with it selected, delete it. That means all your documents won't have that available, what we created here to make available for all the documents. And also, if you want to be able to share a macro that when you recorded, you didn't want to be saved to the global template, like we had the option to save it just to this document, well, it would show it over here, new macros, so you could go ahead and with it over here, copy it over into, well, the normal template so it's available to all documents, or maybe you just want to share Z between two documents and not make it available to all documents. If that's the case, then if you got your document that you saved the macro in and it has new macros there, then you can come over here and close out of the global template and then say from close you want to open. Let's go to the desktop in the exercises folder. And it's looking for templates. We can change that and say we want to see all files. And you've got another document that you want to go ahead and share between the two. Double click to open it up, and then you select your macro over here, and then click on copy, and it will copy over into that other document. So you'll have the macro just between those two. Now keep in mind that when it comes to sharing between documents, Microsoft isn't going to like DOCX documents for your macros. The global template, it seems okay with, but in between just regular documents, macros, it says, oh, you can't do that. That's horrifying. Don't do that. When you copy it over to one that's a .docx and not a .docm or a macro-enabled document, it'll force you to do a save as. It'll say, look, you want to keep this? You want to copy over it? We got to save it as a macro-enabled document, and then you'd say okay, and then it would copy over and it would be okay to store it in that workbook. Word likes to keep its macros in macro templates to be used in the macro template documents, not just regular document templates like the DOCX. In any case, let's go ahead and click Close. And so speaking of which, if I open up a new document, let's go ahead and click on File, go down to New, Blank Document, and then I want to run the macro here. Well, the happy face guy is still here. Company name, DF and website, click on him, and there you go. So he's available in all new documents. And if we want to get rid of it from the global template, well, let's go back to macros. We can remove it from the document here if we'd like. Go ahead and delete. Are you sure? Yes. And it's no longer available in the organizer, although it says it's there. But if I go ahead and create a new blank template, well, let's go ahead and close out. Come up here, click on the File tab, go to New, Blank Document, and I do Alt-Q. Well, it goes up into the light bulb, and that's the shortcut, Alt. And it doesn't run the macro, it goes up to tell me what you want, what you really want box. And when I click on the happy face, oh, he's not happy. The macro can't be found or it has been disabled because of the macro security settings. Well, we know that's not the case because I said enable all. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel to get notified of the latest videos. And for great specials on my products, please see the description below this video.